My name is Clara. I'm 31 years old. And for the last 7 years, I was the personal assistant and estate manager for Arthur Sterling, a billionaire real estate mogul in Seattle. Arthur was a brilliant, difficult, and lonely man. He had 3 children, Marcus, Serena, and Leo, who treated him like a human ATM. They only visited when they needed a debt cleared or a scandal buried. I was the one who sat by his bed when he had pneumonia. I was the one who knew his favorite tea, the names of his childhood dogs, and the fact that he deeply regretted how he had raised his entitled heirs. When Arthur passed away last month, the children descended on the Sterling mansion like vultures. They didn't even wait for the funeral to start arguing over who would get the penthouse in Manhattan and who would take the private jet. Marcus, the eldest, even told me to start packing my things because my services would no longer be required the second the will was read. Yesterday was the day. We gathered in the grand library. The children sat on the velvet sofas, dressed in designer black, looking bored and impatient. Let's get this over with, Serena sighed, checking her diamond watch. I have a flight to Milan at 6. The family attorney, Mr. Henderson, opened the heavy folder. Arthur was very specific about his final wishes. To Marcus, Serena, and Leo, he leaves the sum of $5 million each. The 3 siblings gasped, $5 million. Marcus stood up, outraged. The estate is worth $3 billion. Where's the rest of it? The remainder of the estate, Mr. Henderson continued, his voice unwavering, including all real estate holdings, the Sterling Group shares, and the family name, is bequeathed to Clara Jenkins. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, the screaming began. You manipulated him. Serena shrieked at me. You're just a glorified maid. You probably drugged him. I didn't do anything, Serena, I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. I just worked for him. There is a codicil, Mr. Henderson added, raising a hand for silence. Arthur included a video message. Would you like to see it? He pressed a button, and Arthur's face appeared on the large screen. He looked frail, but his eyes were sharp. To my children, Arthur's voice boomed through the room. I gave you everything you ever asked for, and it turned you into people I don't recognize. You don't know how to build. You only know how to spend. Clara has managed my life, my business, and my moods for 7 years with more grace and intelligence than the 3 of you combined. I am leaving her the keys to the kingdom because she is the only one I trust to keep it from burning down. He leaned closer to the camera. And just so we're clear, if any of you contest this will, your $5 million inheritance is immediately revoked. Don't test me from the grave. I've already paid the best lawyers in the country to defend Clara. Marcus looked like he was going to have a stroke. Serena burst into tears of rage. Leo, the youngest, just stared at me in shock. Clara, Marcus hissed, leaning over the table. You think you can run a billion-dollar empire? You'll be begging us for help within a month. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. I felt Arthur's strength in my bones. Actually, Marcus, I've been running this empire for 3 years while your father was ill. I am the one who signed the contracts you didn't read and approved the budgets you overspent. I don't need your help. I looked at the 3 of them. Now, as the new owner of this property, I believe Serena has a flight to catch, and Marcus. My services are indeed over. Yours, however, are just beginning. I'll expect your keys on the table by 5 o'clock. Marcus didn't move. He stood his ground, his face a deep shade of crimson that clashed with his silk tie. You're making a mistake, Clara. We have the family name. We have the connections. You're just the girl who held his hand while he died. Without us, the Sterling Group is just a pile of bricks. No. Marcus, I replied, opening my laptop and turning it toward them. Without me, the Sterling Group would have gone under 2 years ago when you tried to embezzle funds for that failed casino in Macau. I was the one who diverted the audit. I didn't do it for you, I did it to keep your father's heart from breaking. But Arthur knew. He saw the report I filed. The color drained from Marcus's face. The connections he thought he had were actually bridges he had burned long ago. Serena grabbed her designer bag, her eyes red. This isn't over. We'll find a loophole. You can't just take a family's life work. I'm not taking it, Serena. I'm saving it, I said. Arthur didn't leave me this money to live in luxury. He left me a list of instructions. The first one is to liquidate the private jet you were so excited about and donate the proceeds to the Seattle Children's Hospital. The second is to audit every single one of your trust fund expenses from the last 5 years. Anything that wasn't authorized by Arthur will be deducted from your $5 million payout. Leo, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke up. He really hated us that much, didn't he? He didn't hate you, Leo, I said, softening my voice slightly for the youngest. He was disappointed. He wanted you to be more than just consumers. He told me once that the greatest tragedy of his life wasn't losing his wife, but realizing his children viewed his death as a payday. They left the library one by one. There was no grand goodbye, just the sound of heavy doors closing, and the distant roar of their sports cars as they sped away from the estate they no longer owned. I sat down in Arthur's chair. The room felt immense, filled with the scent of old books and expensive tobacco. For 7 years, I had been the shadow in this house. I was the one who moved through the halls unheard, fixing everyone else's messes. Now, the shadow was the sun. Mr. Henderson leaned over. You have a board meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow, Clara. They're nervous. They've heard the rumors. Let them be nervous, I said, looking out at the Seattle skyline. By 10 a.m., they'll know exactly who is in charge. I didn't spend that night celebrating. I went to Arthur's favorite garden at the back of the estate. I sat on the stone bench and looked at the roses I had helped him plant when his hands grew too shaky to hold the trowel. I wasn't a billionaire's assistant anymore. I was a guardian. Arthur didn't give me a fortune, he gave me a mission. And as I looked at the dark house, now mine to fill with light, I knew I wouldn't let him down. The Sterling name wasn't going to be a synonym for greed anymore. It was going to mean something, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't working for someone else's dream. I was building my own.